Hello and welcome to Charm Week. This is day one and today I have a charm tutorial for you. This charm is kind of basically the most basic of charms that you can make, and it can be used to make other more complex charms as well. If you've been watching me, I've done this tutorial in other tutorials and on ECT TV before, but this time I'm going to show you how to make a head pin that's a little bit different. It's still pretty simple, and you can totally do it. You can use this charm, like I said, on other charms, as kind of to decorate other charms up, or you can use it just by itself. So basically what we're going to be making today is a bead dangle, and but this bracelet is just full of just bead dangles, and I just put a bead dangle on every single link on the chain, and some of these, this is a big chain, kind of chunky chain, so some of the links have a couple bead dangles on them, and it kind of makes this cool funky bracelet. And you can use this with one bead, or you can use a few beads like I did here. Here's one that just has one bead. Well, this actually has a few beads because it has seed beads on it. Now, the head pin I'm going to show you is nice because you can, of course, use pre-made head pins. You can just get them at any jewelry supply store. But sometimes your beads, the hole in your beads, the bore will be too wide and the bead will slide right off the head pin. So this is a nice option if that's the case, because the end will be bigger and hold the bead on. And it also gives a little extra to your jewelry. So this is what you'll need to make this charm. You will need 20 gauge half hard round wire. You can use any metal you like. I happen to be using brass. I would suggest, if you're new to jewelry making, to practice on a less expensive metal and then upgrade to sterling silver when you feel more comfortable. You could try copper. Brass is inexpensive too. They have artistic wire at craft stores. It's usually like silver plated copper. I will note though that usually doesn't say half hard, dead soft. It doesn't usually have a hardness marking on it. But what I've found is that it's mostly half hard to maybe a little bit softer than half hard. It's very similar to half hard. So if you want to try that out, you won't find a hardness marking. Just buy what they have and you'll be fine. You'll need a bead of some sort because we are actually making a bead dangle. So a bead is necessary for that. Any bead is fine. You will need chain nose pliers, wire cutters, another pair of pliers. I will be using bent nose, but you could use another set of chain nose, or even like these kind of square nose. Whatever you have is fine. And then a pair of round nose pliers. You'll also need a hammer. I'm going to use a chasing hammer, which has the flat side and then the ball peen on the other side. This type of hammer will flatten the wire, so it will take away its roundness. Alternatively, you can use a rawhide or a nylon hammer, and this will harden the wire without changing its shape, so it won't make it flat. It will stay round. And then you'll need a steel bench block, or some other metal surface, anvil, whatever it is that you use. If you do not have a hammer and bench block, this tutorial will probably be okay without it. It helps harden your work and helps to keep its shape. But if you don't have it, don't worry about it. Just try it without. Okay, so to get started, we are going to cut a few inches of wire. And I think I've cut about 4 inches. Now this is going to vary. If you want to make a bead dangle with several beads, or your beads are extra long, then you're going to want to cut more wire because you want to have more wire to work with. If it's just a small bead, you probably only need maybe 3 inches. And now I'm just going to put a flush cut on each end. So when you cut with your wire cutters on this back flat part, it makes a nice flat flush cut. When you use the other end, it makes a pinch cut. So this kind of the top front, it's concave. If you cut that way toward the work, it makes a pinch cut. The kind of flat back side makes a flush cut. So I just like to start basically all my projects that way, so you have a nice flush cut, nice straight edge. So now I have my round nose pliers, and you may see I have a mark on them. I like to make a mark when I'm making projects, so all my loops will be the same throughout the project. However, in this case, I'm going to use a smaller mark, which I just made this mark, so it's still very bright. My smaller mark is down here, closer to the ends. But, you know, in fact, that's also goes for taste too. You might want to use a bigger loop at the end of your head pin. It's up to you. And it doesn't really matter exactly where you put the mark. It just matters that you use it consistently throughout your project. So, there you go. Alright, so we're going to start by making a loop. So I'm going to hold the end of the wire in my round nose pliers, and the wire should be at the top but not poking through the top, so you should be able to run your finger right over that. And then I'm going to twist away with my right hand. I'm right-handed, so I assume this will be opposite if you're left-handed. As I'm twisting away from myself, I'm going to use my left hand to wrap the wire around the plier. So just like that, you go as far as you can go, and then you let go, readjust, and do the same thing again and complete the circle, the loop. Alright, so it should look like a P. Alright, so for the second part of this head pin, you really don't have to take out the loop from your pliers at all. You can just leave it in, and then we're just going to twist back around the other barrel of the pliers as far as we can go, and then twist up through the middle. Now somehow I got my other loop opened a little, so I'm just gonna fix that. So there you go. There is your head pin. And so now I'm just going to hammer, but only the loops at the top. So we're just going to hammer where the loops are so they keep their shape. I'm using a chasing hammer, so that will flatten my loops. But if you prefer to not flatten the wire, then use a rawhide or nylon plastic hammer. Alright, so we have that. Okay, so now we have our head pin complete. And you might need to straighten it a little. You could just do that with your fingers, or if you have a nylon jawed plier, but you don't want to work on it too much, because the more you work with wire, the harder it gets. And if you're going to be making a bunch of bead dangles, I would suggest that you do all your head pins first and then do this next part I'm about to show you. In fact, I would do all the loop part first and then hammer all of them. That way you don't have to switch tools all the time. You can just do, you know, one thing and then switch tools and do the next thing. Alright, so now we're going to make a bead dangle. So you just slide the bead onto the head pin you just made, and as you can see in this case, this is like way too much wire for this particular bead, but that's okay. It's better to have too much than not enough. Alright, and now I am going to make the bead dangle. So you just want to hold the wire above the bead, and you want to leave a little space in between the bead and your pliers, and line up on the mark you made so that all your loops are the same in your project. And then you're just going to wrap around the pliers so you have a loop. So now I'm going to hold this loop in my chain nose pliers, and maybe you notice this loop is off to the side and I'd like it to be straight. So how I do this is I hold my loop in my chain nose pliers, and then I'm going to go around one time, and as I go around I just straighten the loop so it's straight. And now I'm switching hands, and I'm going to do a few wraps. Since my wire is long, I am just using my hands, but you can use bent nose pliers or just another pair of chain nose to make your wraps. And then just try to keep all the wraps straight and close together. And then we're just going to trim off the excess wire. And then you just want to make sure that that end isn't poking out, so you can just take your chain nose pliers and kind of push it in, or you can do this thing, kind of just go around. Oops, I don't know why I keep dropping my tools today. Alright, and there you have very simple bead dangle. So as you can see from my bracelet that I made, my own personal bracelet with all the bead dangles, if you want to make a full bracelet, you can you're going to need a lot of bead dangles. You can use any beads you like, that sort of thing. And I just wanted to let you know that my Charm Bracelet e-course is now available to purchase at any time. So when you buy it, you get access to it right away. It has 4 lessons, so you can either work through those 4 lessons at your own pace, or you can sign up for a newsletter and then you'll get a lesson each week, and then you can go through it in the next 4 weeks. And new so this is kind of a new, we're trying it out. You can make payment plans. So there are 2 payments. You make one payment right away, and then the next payment in 2 weeks. You get access right away, but it's manual for me. So when I see you made the payment plan, the first payment, I will send you an email to access the course with the understanding that you'll be making the second payment in 2 weeks. So I hope that helps you be able to more easily afford the Charm Bracelet e-course. You can find out more about it on my blog at KimberlyKlohler.com and sign up there. Alright, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow with another charm.